doing out there today on this bright and beautiful Tuesday. We are here at Evangelos in Wasilla, Alaska for the Wasilla Chamber presents the Senate Forum. All the candidates that are running in the current election in the MatSu Valley have been invited to be here today. And take a moment right now to like and share this video. Informed Alaskans are educated Alaskans when it comes time to vote, and it guarantees that we have the most people understanding who they are voting for when it comes time and making an educated decision on who that will be, and not just clicking or marking that name that they recognize. Name recognition is why we have the swamp in charge down there in Juneau right now. It's something we need to change. It takes educated voters to make that happen. Later on today, I will be at the Loussac Library starting at 7 o'clock. There is going to be a vote yes for the Constitutional Convention, and all the reason why being prevented by Senator Shelley, Hughes, and Senator Mike Shower. They will be there for this event, and it'll be great to have as many people as we can to be there. Again, that's at the Loussac Library tonight at 7 p.m. Why we should be voting yes. The Vote No crowd, their delegates were invited to be there to give their alternative view of why the swamp should stay in control of our government, and why they should be dictating where every penny we make goes, and only they know how to spend our money more wisely than we do. Something Alaskans have been battling now for 7 long years, if you take into account our statutory PFDs being stolen year after year after year. The only way we're going to take back control of our government is to do something with the Constitution that puts in consequences for their actions. This is our opportunity to vote yes on the CON, close Pandora's box that has been open now for several decades. When our court systems have become so powerful, they are now legislating law from the bench without ever consulting our Alaska legislators on what they're going to do. Changing words like may and shall now mean the exact same thing. It's time for Alaskans to take control. Senator Mike Shower said it very adequately that if they didn't fix the PFD problem, it's time to change. Looks like they're getting started.
Car keys, and I missed a great opportunity to auction off a car. So today, somebody left their wonderful, very soft leather gloves. I put them on and modeled them, but they won't fit on my hands.
That's a OJ in there. So, all right, we have a winner. We have an auction. That was a good one.
Long time no see. We actually met before. Josh White was
Okay, silencing things down here just a little bit. Quite amazing how looks like they have a car that they're auctioning off as part of this, and I thought it was getting started into the event. But to continue on, Senator Mike Shower had said something on the floor 2 years ago at about that time, year and a half ago, that if they didn't do something to permanently fix the permanent fund dividend, start putting solutions on the table that gives Alaska a long-term fiscal plan with the budgets that come out of Juneau that are statewide enacted, that they needed to, there's real consequences that if we have to vote yes for a constitutional convention to do the job that those down in Juneau refuse to do. Well, looking at our judicial branches, looking at our legislative branches down there in Juneau and statewide, it's very clear they no longer are working for us. And you can see that clearly in Anchorage with the Anchorage Assembly and the Anchorage School Board. DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity, has become statutory policy there, along with, or most people know it as CRT, critical race theory. And then you got to look at the Anchorage Assembly has completely taken away all public testimony. These are the kind of things that they don't want to have happen, and they're working their darndest to make sure it doesn't. So it looks like they're about ready to begin here. I'm going to swap microphones and go to them.
How about now? Ooh. There we go. Now I can see in the right direction. All right, so welcome to our Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce. We are going to be doing our state forum here, state senate forum. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I didn't ask anybody, but Senator Wilson, would you, as biased, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I'd like to go ahead and introduce and thank our 2022 benefactors. We have Alaska Railroad, Alaska USA, City of Wasilla, ConocoPhillips, Evangelos Restaurant, MTA, MSM Valley Federal Credit Union, the Moose 96.3, and Q 99.7. I'd also like to thank our development partners, Extreme Fund Center, MatSu Electric Association, Valley Cinema, and Mac Federal Credit Union. At this point, I will introduce our board of directors. We have our chair, Kelsey McLeod with Jack White Real Estate. Our vice chair is Brian Headings with Matt Valley Federal Credit Union. Our secretary is Veronica Pillams with First National Bank of Alaska. Our treasurer is Joseph Google with RMG Real Estate Network at Keller Williams. Our directors at large are Jackie Finchallo with MTA, Tammy Hansen with MatSu Title, Eddie Azell with MatSu Food Bank, Stacy Yates with My House, and Marty Mativa with Northern Experience Consulting. So, Jessica, do you want to go ahead and do our gubernatorial videos?
Yeah, so we asked all 4 of our gubernatorial candidates to send us a video introducing their campaigns and answering 2 questions. Let me go. Hold on. And we had 2 candidates submit videos for us. So the 2 questions that were asked is, how would you work with the federal government to ensure that Alaska has the authority to responsibly develop its resources? And as the country faces a recession, what are the most important steps or measures we can take as a state to remain resilient? So these are the video responses we received, and we'll add them to our website and our social media as well.
Hi, I'm Bill Walker, running for governor. My running mate, Heidi Drygas, lieutenant governor, is also Fairbanks born, Alaskan born, and she was my commissioner of labor and workforce development, and she's obviously a lifelong Alaskan too. So a couple of questions that we received as far as to respond to, which were good questions, so thanks for the opportunity to speak to you today. One had to do with how do we get responsible resource development in Alaska, with the federal government being difficult as they've been since statehood on our resource development. You know, what I found most helpful when I was governor was to actually deal directly with them. And in other words, there were times there was litigation, but that was typically the last step. It was not the first necessarily the first step. I spent time with 15 meetings with Secretary Sally Jewell, Secretary of Interior, and the Obama administration. Probably the most difficult 15 meetings I've ever had in my life, unpleasant. But we got Willow permitted. We got Picture permitted. So, you know, it's a matter of sitting down and spending the time and help educate those that don't understand Alaska. It required me to fly on Air Force One with both President Obama and President Trump. help sell and explain how Alaska works. So it's a matter of meeting with those, showing up and meeting with those that are decision makers at the highest level possible. That's what I did, and that's what I'll do again because of the successes that we saw when the President Obama supported offshore drilling, and certainly President Trump was very aggressive on the gas line. So it's a matter of meeting with those as high as you can and selling Alaska, which actually Alaska sells itself. Is help them understand how well we do things in Alaska, and we are a strong resource state. That was the deal when we became a state. That's a deal today. The second question had to do with a recession coming. What can we do to prepare for anticipate a recession coming? And I think that's a good question. A couple of things we can do. One is we can have a fiscal plan. We have not had a fiscal plan for 10 years. We've been living off of savings. We've gone through $20 billion of savings in the last 10 years, which is unprecedented in any state's history. So we need a fiscal plan to resolve that. We need to make sure we have a reason that people stay in Alaska. We have lost a tremendous number of young people. 34% of those between 16 and 26 have left Alaska, over 20,000 in the last couple of years because they're concerned about the future of the state. And the third thing we can do is we need to bring down the cost of energy. Everybody talks about bringing down the cost of energy. We actually have a plan to do that. We actually sell our royalty oil to our refineries. We have 3 refineries in Alaska. We sell it at the highest price we can get, based upon world prices, and fluctuate based upon what the world prices are. We need energy and fuel at $2 a gallon. I mean, that's the goal, and I think we do that. Still let the refineries make their margin, and still make the distributors make their margin, of course. But the largest part of it is what we charge. The biggest consumer of Alaskan fuel obviously is Alaska. So it's a matter of making that a priority so that we are selling our royalty oil rather than the highest price to ourselves at a price that we can get $2 fuel. So I know that's maybe a bit optimistic, but I tell you, I think it's very doable. They do it in other sovereigns that have natural resources. They make them available at a lower price. We need to do that ourselves. And so with that, I thank you again for the opportunity to address the Wasilla Chamber, and I look forward to our next time we can meet in person. I certainly our cabin at Nancy Lake is something we enjoy immensely, and so look for the next time we can be out there to recreate. So have a great day, and again, thank you very much, and we would definitely appreciate your vote in this upcoming election as we face some challenging times. But as Alaskans, we can do that working together. We're nonpartisan. I'm with a unity ticket. I'm a Republican, moved to the middle, and Heidi is a Democrat, moved to the middle. So unity ticket, no initials, just Alaskans through and through.
Hi, Charlie Pierce coming to you this afternoon to answer a couple of questions for you. Running mate is Edie Grunwald, and Edie and I have come together to vote for the governor's office, and I want to tell you we're excited about this and we're eager to go on and work for Alaskans. Our campaign has been about all Alaskans, and we certainly are interested in making sure that we take care of the needs of all Alaskans, and that's been our focus. And the 2 questions you had, one was about the federal government, maybe perhaps overreach by the federal government, and I would say that clearly all Alaskans have watched our federal government shut down the oil and gas industry in our nation, and really to put a spin on us. And look at gas prices today. They're directly related to how our federal government has behaved. How would I work with them? Well, I'd be aggressive. I'd make sure that Alaskans have their rights represented in Washington, and I would not be shy about that. If it required a lawsuit, I'd certainly sue the federal government. I'm not afraid to do that to exercise our rights as Alaskans. Economy, certainly recession is a concern. We've been in recession before, and we can see the impacts that recessions have on all Alaskans. And what I'd say is it's a direct relationship to printing money and not having any products or services behind it to back it up. The value of our dollar is certainly eroded, and you're going to see some double-digit inflation in the near term anyway, and Alaskans not insulated from that. The oil and gas industry has talked about the banks not want to invest in Alaskan projects, and I'd say to those banks, then fine, we'll start our own bank in Alaska. Nothing that prevents us or precludes us from starting our own bank and investing in ourselves. So whether you're in the timber industry needs to be shored up, we need to crank that industry back up. Tourism, oil and gas, fishing, all of these industries are very, very important to all Alaskans. And I want to make sure that all of them are thriving and working well under our government. It starts with permitting processes, and just getting government out of the way. And I'm really the kind of guy that can do just that, get government out of the way. Wish you all the best, and get out and vote on November the 8th.
Right, those are all the videos that we received from the candidates.
Okay, so now we'll go ahead and ask all of our panelists to come down to the table. And so we're going to kick this off with our introductions. You're going to have 1 minute for your introduction. Each answer will get 45 seconds. And our wonderful Tammy Hansen is going to be our timer for the day.
I love the BB.
Yeah.
Most targets on them.
And it looks like Mike Shower's going to be coming, so we may have to get his introduction at the end. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll start off our introductions by Senate District. So we'll kick it off with, let's see, I got to reference my list here. Senate District N, let's kick it off with David Wilson. You got 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. Hello everyone, my name is David Wilson. I've been in Alaska since 1999, came up for education, fell in love with the state, fell in love with Alaska, born and raised wife, her name is Lita, grew up on the Yukon River. I really just want to change the way state government functions a little bit, be a little more personable. That's why I wanted to get involved with the community. I've been involved in the community through various different organizations, volunteering, and giving my time and service. And this is the greatest way that I felt that I can give my time and service to the community, and by helping out my local neighbors, community, and such. I also, before I forget, in my 30 seconds here, I told Marlene, one of the folks I like to volunteer and help with is the Wasilla Senior Center. And since we not do an announcement, she can be here today. The Fall Festival is this Friday, the 21st, at Wazi from 4 to 6:30. They have live music, chili cook-off, all dessert, and I just want everyone to show up and be involved in helping out that wonderful risky population. Thanks.
All right, next up we have Scott Clayton.
Well, hello. My name is Scott Clayton. I moved to Alaska in 2004. Left school, BYU, and it's funny, when I went to BYU in Idaho, there were jobs everywhere, right? This is minimum wage jobs, and I remember looking at them and saying, I don't want any of this. And so I grabbed some Windex, some paper towels, went and started to wash windows, and learned that I could make double what I could anywhere just going and washing windows, and started a commercial window washing company that I ran all the way through business school. And so that entrepreneurial spirit I found in Alaska and everywhere. It's in BNI, it's in this Chamber of Commerce, and I see that spirit of entrepreneurship leaving the state. It's because Alaska has become one of the least business-friendly states in the country, which is a shame because Alaska is a wonderful state with so many business opportunities. So my name is Scott Clayton. I served in the Marine Corps, came back with my wife. She was reluctant because of the snow, but that's okay, she loves it. But I'm excited to answer these questions and look forward to getting to know you guys more.
Awesome, thank you. Next up we have Stephen Wright.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Wright. Me and my wife, we've lived here in the Valley since 2009. Just a little bit about me. I was born on Elmendorf Air Force Base. When I turned 22 years old, I decided to join the Air Force, and so I was going to college at the time, also in Idaho at a school, Rick's College. And so at that time, I delayed enlisted in the Air Force. And so when I was in the Air Force, there's a lot of changes depending on who was president. We'd have reduction in, they would always, one of the biggest things when I was an airman that I heard was do more with less. Well, that doesn't always work, but we have to be efficient in government. We have to decentralize a lot of the functions of government because that really impacts what happens within our state, because we have a really large overhead. We need our private economy to be strong, and what we've seen happen in the last few years is our private economy isn't as strong as it should be. Thank you.
All right, next up from Senate District O, we have Doug Massey.
Hello, Doug Massey, running for Senate District O. First off, happy Alaska Day to everybody. Grew up, born and raised here in Alaska. Spent my entire life here in the MatSu. My wife Misty's there, my mom Alice is right over there. Small business owner, 25-year Alaska Wildlife Trooper, retired in May. I retired to run for office because I wanted to continue to serve. My top 3 priorities are public safety, infrastructure, and education. Public safety, without a safe civil society, the economy struggles, people are not productive. Second one, infrastructure, not just roads and bridges. Those are important, but we also need to work on broadband and things that are important for that. The third one is education. I don't just mean brick and mortar schools, I mean trade schools, because we have high-paying trade jobs that are coming because of Pitka and Willow, and we need highly trained people for those jobs.
All right, and from Senate District M, we have Shelley Hughes.
You saved the best for last. Hi.
That's just how it came up on my list.
I'm Shelley Hughes. I'm running for District M for my MatSu. And I came to Alaska in 1976 as a teenager, and I have lived virtually all over the state, which is unusual for a legislator, so it brings a great perspective. I lived in Hoonah, Bethel, above the Arctic Circle, in Fort Yukon, and in Fairbanks and Seward on the Kenai Peninsula, and here for 32 years. I've been married 44 years, and I have raised my children all here in Palmer. They all went to the schools here. And I am blessed with 9 grandchildren and 3 borrowed grandchildren. So I served in the House for 4 years, and I've now been in the Senate for 6 years. And I was really ready to hang it up, but I realized there's work to do, and important work, and we need a strong conservative majority in the Senate. And so, to me, promoting a better and stronger economy is very important right now. And fighting for family values is also incredibly important. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, at this point, we're going to go ahead and jump right into our questions. So again, you're going to have 45 seconds to answer. I'm going to do it a little bit differently today. Instead of asking every single time the mic is passed, if you guys need me to reiterate the question, please ask me and I'll reiterate it for you. So we are going to kick it off. Shelley, you get to go first this time. Mic's right there. What relationships with the state government do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
Can I ask for clarification on the question? Because when I read that, when you emailed it, do you mean your relationship with state government or legislators' relationship with state government? I just need to understand your question.
Julie?
I want to understand, hi, Julia.
She's leading our government affairs committee, so I'm gonna shout.
Yeah, so we're trying to understand your relation, how we interact. So, as a senator, what you all have control over, and then how we can interact with that to make changes.
Okay, I'll take this opportunity because we get contacted a lot of times to fix things in the executive branch. And we don't have authority over telling the executive branch what to do. We can pass laws and we can pass the budget. But we can put pressure on the agencies as necessary. But part of that is also building good relationships. And because I'm focused very much on the economy, having a good relationship with the commissioners in the Department of Economic Development, Department of Labor is incredibly important. Broadband was mentioned, and one of our problems right now is so many people depend on public assistance. If we can develop jobs that people that are in the villages can get high-paying jobs and get off of public assistance, that's going to be really important. So that's one of the areas looking at. 45 seconds go so fast.
I know it does. Go ahead and pass that down to Scott Clayton. Same question.
So this seems a little bit simplistic, but in this question, I think the best relationship that we can strengthen is with parents, with the actual community. Listen to the pain points they have and where we can actually improve Alaska when we go down to Juneau. And so what's happened for a long time is we've said, we've had this agenda since a long time, 12 years, and we've been working on it. Meanwhile, people in Alaska have been saying, hey, we're feeling this happening right now with our school system, with crime, with our infrastructure, and it's barely getting talked about now. And so the relationship that I think that we need to strengthen is we need to hear parents, we need to hear Alaskans and say, that's our focus. That's who we need to prioritize right now.
All right, next up is going to be David Wilson.
Thank you. Relationships is the foremost important piece of our jobs. We had to have effective communication, effective leadership, and effective relationships with other legislators, working with administration, but most importantly, I agree with that you need to have a most important relationship with your constituency that you represent and that you have. I mean, I won't know how to best serve the community if I'm not part of the community, and being part of the community is having that relationship with each and every one of you here. 45 seconds is not a really good time to really introduce us, so I would just tell folks, if you want to learn more about me, go on my website. We can sit down and make an appointment, sit down for coffee, sit down for whatever you want to do, till we can have a communication and actually talk more about how I can best serve this community, the city of Wasilla, and the greater Wasilla area. Thank you.
All right, go ahead and hand that next door to Michael Schauer.
What was the question?
Okay, the question was, what relationships with the state government do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
So we have a couple things. First of all, the state, and I know it's 45 seconds, so I'll talk fast, I'm good at that anyway. So one of the things is the state's got to get its house in order, fiscal house. We need a comprehensive fiscal plan. We have to have a stable tax base, and if we don't do that, it's going to make it hard for businesses and communities, the municipalities, period. So we have to do that, and to do that, we have to communicate. What do you need? What's our job? What's our role? How do we get it? How do we help? And how do we also get out of the way? So those are very important things for us, and we need to listen. I think everybody's going to say that. We need to listen to what you need and what's happening. So if we're not doing that, we're not going to be effective, and there are a lot of things that need to happen. So the bottom line for us, starting off, that fiscal policy, comprehensive energy plans, other things that are going to be needed so that we can help you guys be open for business, and the state's got a big role in that. So we got to listen. I'm sure she's going to 0.
All right, go ahead and hand that to your right down to Doug Massey.
Okay. First of all, as far as relationships with state government that need to be improved, I would go to local and municipal organizations, community leaders, and see what we can do to improve relationships on the state level with the municipal and borough levels. That would be number one. I think that relationships with other legislators around the state need to be improved. There has been a lot of divisiveness over the past few years, and we all know that doesn't result in accomplishing much. So I would work on repairing relationships statewide so that we can get things done for the good of the people.
Awesome. All right, and lastly we have Stephen Wright.
Okay, so I think it's important that legislatures actually listen to the people. So being far away in Juneau, a lot of times you're not getting that connection that's happening within the local community. So I think it's important that we decentralize in the aspect of having some of the sessions on the road system. I mean, we've got a question that we have to answer coming up with the Constitutional Convention. We can look at our Constitution and fix a few things. We have issues all down the line, and so that's one of the reasons why I'm a yes on the Constitutional Convention. But it's important that we listen to our constituents and then do things that deregulate and enhance government, which doesn't necessarily need to be efficient.
All right, go ahead and hand it down to Michael Schauer. So our next question, what changes would you make at the state level to encourage business growth?
I guess we're standing for this, huh? So 45 seconds, is that the rule every time? Okay, I guess it makes sense. So talking fast again, for growth to be open for business, like I said, I'll start and circle back. We've got to be stable. We have to be sustainable. We have to know what our tax base is going to be, and we got to take some things off the table like the PFD. We've got to stop fighting about it. Got to get it done. It needs to be. And we need a good change our current constitutional spending cap so businesses know when they come to this state, we're going to honor our agreements. We've been a terrible business partner. and we have to show them that we're going to be open for business. In addition, we are a resource state, so we need to make sure we're working with our federal partners and make sure that we get our lands back so that we can actually develop our resources, because that's key for us. Without that, we're dead in the water, and we're having a struggle with the current administration. So the state has to be able to push those things and make sure, because then we get down to the municipal level, and that's what you guys are going to depend on. But you need us to open that gateway for us and be stable.
Awesome. Go ahead and pass it down to Doug Massey there.
So I would go directly to organizations like this to find out what changes need to be made to encourage business growth. People like you know better than anybody what needs to happen, what roadblocks there are for business growth, what the challenges have been, permitting processes, and so on. So I would go directly to organizations just like this. I would look at any kind of in broad terms as to how we have very little, as little impact as possible on growth and the economy prospering.
Okay, go ahead and hand it to the other end of the table, down to Stephen Ray.
Okay, yeah, could you restate that question?
What changes would you make at the state level to encourage business growth?
Okay, so at the state level, I think it's important. I went to an oil and gas, or it wasn't oil and gas, but I've been to one of the presentations online, and then I went to the mining presentation yesterday, and I found out that the process to get leases completed or to get permits done is like 3 years at the state level, and then at the national level, federal level, it takes up to 7 years. So enhancing these processes, making them more efficient, and making them something that can bring business into the community, I think is an important thing. So we need to deregulate, and then I also feel that it's important that we look at what's happening within the economy, and we focus on growing what needs to be grown. I guess I'm out of time.
Okay, let's hand this down to Scott Clayton.
Yeah, I've become quite the salesman for Alaska and all my family. They almost are sick of it because every time we talk, I try to sell Alaska, and it's becoming harder and harder. What parent, what family wants to move to the state when our education system is bottom on the list? When it's the worst place to bring your kids to be educated? And we're spending the most, $17,500 per student. That's ridiculous. If we can't produce student outcomes, who wants to live here anyway? So, what we need to do is we need to reform education system to be able to, that's a baseline for the state. We have to be able to provide a solid education. The other thing is we need to deregulate businesses, invite business to come up to be able to operate freely. Yes.
All right, let's hand it down to David Wilson.
All right, I think everyone from this debate and the last debate is going to talk about energy growth and how the ways to have a better, cheaper, independent energy, having a better infrastructure, and having government move out the way. But one of the things that we can do better as government is to work with you to help when the government has those regulation changes and other items. We do a really bad job of informing and providing technical assistance. That's one thing that I've heard upon, especially during the COVID, during all the different types of funds that came in and how to use those funds, is we didn't do a good job explaining those rules and providing the technical assistance. So that's one thing that I think we can really work on, is helping us help you by succeeding, by giving you all the tools necessary and providing a platform and a way of change for that to occur. That's one thing that we can do. Thank you.
Awesome, let's hand it over to Shelley Hughes.
Changes at the state level, 2 of them the legislature has refused to do because they don't want to restrict their own power. State spending cap and settle the PFD. We have lost out on $500 million per year in infrastructure investment in the state. If we do that, that is going to be a game changer. It has to be done through a state constitutional convention, though, in my opinion. I'm going to say ditto to what Scott said about education. That is key. We are losing young people. I came up here as a young mom, was under the federal poverty level. This place was a place of opportunity. It was through hard work and education. We need to open up that opportunity again. Microreactors will be an actual, tangible, affordable way we can get energy down in the state, and that'll be a game changer.
Awesome, let's hand it down to Doug Massey. You're going to kick off this next question. How would you support the Wasilla Airport expansion?
So that's a great question. I actually, when I was the director of the Alaska Wildlife Troopers, I had reached out to the mayor over a year ago about this very thing. At the time, I suggested we move the Alaska State Troopers headquarters to the Wasilla Airport because of our aircraft section, which has about 50 aircraft. So I started that conversation a long time ago. I think that when I get to Juneau, it's my job to seek out any federal or state funding that would support expanding the airport and push any kind of legislation and put it at the forefront of any state airport projects that exist. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's go to Scott Clayton right next to you there. Sorry, the mic was on the move already.
Well, it's time that we start investing in the state, and that's ports, airports, roads, infrastructure. We need to invest in the state to make it more desirable to come up. Part of that is the airports that we have. Wasilla, the MatSu Valley is where we're seeing the most growth in the state. And that means that we should be investing in this region to invite more businesses to come, more things like the airport, like McKenzie Port, in our area.
Go ahead and hand it to Michael Schauer. Same question.
Flying. That's kind of in my lane. So a little bit. So this is a big one, folks. I mean, infrastructure matters, right? And we need that. And that includes roads, ports, bridges, etc. And some of you know, I know Senator Hughes and Wilson certainly helped, was part of the $30 million more for infrastructure and roads to the MatSu specific. $200 million for the port, $200 million for the port to Nome. Why? We need it. We're 10 years behind. The Wasilla Airport is a part of that. It's included in that entire thing. And if you're going to grow, you have to build things. I'm tired of watching us be afraid to build things, from Latana Dam to new airports and bridges. When's the last time we built a big road in the state? It's been forever. So that money needs to come here. We need to focus on the MatSu, and I'm telling you, I'm going to focus on the MatSu, and that money needs to come here and growth in a whole bunch of things, but that airport's going to be for regional and small cargo and how we hub out from there, and I can talk more about that at a different time because I'm out of time.
Awesome. Hand it down to the end of Stephen right there, please.
Okay, yeah, so I also worked on airplanes for 22 years, so I spent a lot of time on the flight line. So what do we do with, some of the things I recommend is runway expansion, kind of, Michael Schauer mentioned that. Bringing the private industry in, cargo, small cargo. We have a lot of small cargo aircraft that bring cargo out to the rural parts of the state. So I think that that's something that we could expand into. We could expand into training. There's a lot of different things that can be done with a flight line. You can do a lot of different activities as well. Even tourism can be bolstered. So I think there's a lot to look at when it comes to the activities that can be done with the airport.
Next up is David Wilson.
Thank you. How would I support the Wasilla Airport? You know, I've been working with the current administration under Mayor Ledford and Mayor Burkottle. In my CAPSIS is our way that we support our capital budget, and it's been in my CAPSIS project each time just for additional funds for the airport. Really, it's going to be trying how we can supplement other infrastructure funds that are coming in to the state to see what we can do to help supplement some of the funds for the city of Wasilla, to see if that would be an option for them to then free up their free liquid cash to be able to help fund and develop the airport capital project. And I think that's the best way that we can do as legislators, is just to see what other state funds we can support, like community revenue sharing for the communities, to make sure that we don't limit that to free up additional capital for communities.
And lastly, Shelley Hughes.
There's some things government does that is inappropriate and not their place, but infrastructure is something that is very necessary and appropriate. And if we're going to have the funding for infrastructure, we have to limit some of the government program spending. Right now, 35% of Alaskans are on Medicaid. That is not sustainable. So we have to be willing to work on those things. We also have to have the kind of people who now know how to strategize and build teams and coalitions in the legislature. I was the one that took the other two senators back into a room off the floor to get the $30 million. They only had 8 votes. I said, you add $30 million for MatSu, I will bring you 12. It passed 12-8. So those are the kind of things that we need to do, is understanding infrastructure is fundamental, and funding for the airport is part of that.
Go ahead and hand it to your left there, to Stephen Wright. Our next question, what would your priorities be for infrastructure growth in the valley?
Okay, so in the valley, we have Fort McKenzie. I think that's a major activity zone there. You can bring in, you can complete the railway, you can move a lot of raw materials back and forth. You can even use it for tourism to some extent once the railway is complete. So there's a lot that can be done. I mean, infrastructure is huge. Railway, bridges. I like to see the bridge built across to alleviate traffic flow within the valley. I mean, we have the Seward Meridian Road that needs to be connected up to Bogard. There's a lot of things. I mean, we're expanding KTV right now, which there's a lot of expansion areas with roads that we can do, new roads that would help the valley.
Let's go this way to David Wilson.
Thank you. Here locally in the valley, I would say your number one need probably roads. You know, we need roads to resources. We need safer roads. Roads help our moves, goods, and services. We need KGBs at its capacity. I look at that project's going through. What's the next road is probably a Bogard, Ingstrom. I don't think we've all tried to make a left coming out of one of those roads, and we put our lives in danger, and that should not be. So the way to grow a community really is infrastructure. And we need to make sure that we continue, you know, $30 million to match the borough bond was a great start. And we need to continue that on into perpetuity as we continue to grow to make sure we grow appropriately into the future, just not to meet the basic needs of today. So we just need to keep our eye on the future for our future growth.
Next is Shelley Hughes.
Can you please repeat the question?
What would your priorities be for infrastructure growth in the valley?
I would repeat roads. I will also, I think we have looked at the bridge as a possibility. We've taken that off the shelf. And that's going to, the makeup of what happens November 8th will have a lot to do whether that can move forward. I also believe that the port is going to be key in when I think of my children and grandchildren. And so you can't put it off. You got to keep pressing for it. We've got to develop the rail, and we have stood and fought for that. And the stronger of a conservative majority we have in the House and the Senate, the greater the chance. Was that the zero? No. Oh.
You're getting there.
Yeah. But anyway, yep, that's it.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, hand it down this way to Scott Clayton.
MatSu Valley is a very conservative place, and I think one of the big parts of this is we need to continue to elect really strong conservatives that are going to fight to fund infrastructure in the area, because right now all of that money is getting sidetracked and it's getting detoured to places that are not conservative to build them up. Who wants to build up the hub of conservatism in the state of Alaska? Not Democrats. So we need to continue to elect strong conservatives in our area. Focus on roads. Right now, Lucille, which I drive every single day, is just potholes every single year. Break up and fall. We get the rain and it starts to present itself again. And KGB, second most dangerous road in the state. It shouldn't be that. This is right down the road from us, right? So we need to start investing in our infrastructure.
Go over to Doug Massey there.
All right, priorities for infrastructure, life, health, safety. So roads first. KGB is a dangerous road. We need to see that to fruition and completion. Second would be the Parks Highway. We've all been in the congestion at the top of the hill. Lowe's, I've been there for 30 minutes. I know you all have too. And then the third would be Seward Meridian, improvements there. That is becoming a large medical district. We need to make way for expansion and furthering that. Also, a lot of people don't think of it as infrastructure, but broadband. We need to improve broadband in the valley. There's many, many other projects. I don't have time to talk about all of them, but those would be my top priorities for now.
Awesome, thank you. Next, let's go to Michael Schauer.
Nice one, this one. So you've heard it, I guess, roads, I think, was mentioned a few times. Is it off?
It's off.
Sorry, I just burned 5 seconds. So you've heard roads, all right, that's an issue, we all know it. And if you go to Fairbanks, there's 4-lane highways everywhere through downtown. We are way behind. I've had family down KGB and Ingstrom, 2 of those dangerous intersections, so I have personal vested interest in that. I will also tell you that we need to build, all right? Like I said, instead of drill, baby, drill, let's build, baby, build. We need to be building big things. That includes the bridge, that includes roads. We should be thinking 15, 20, 25 years ahead, not now. That's one of our problems. We need to be building Church, Pittman, other places for what they're gonna look like when we're 150,000 or 200,000, because that's where we're headed, folks. The problem is we haven't planned that way. We need to think that way, we need to think big, and we need to think long-term. And that, the planning commission that's coming up is gonna be a part of helping that, because that's what we're not really good at doing. So that's something we need to get ahead of.
All right, hand it to David Wilson there. David, what do you see as the primary role of state legislatures in planning and development?
Planning and development is try to look at some of the economic forecasts of growth and see what we can do to help meet those needs. One is workforce development. We really lack workforce development. We can't, from healthcare to the trades, and supporting our trade schools and giving them the funding and working with those entities, with some of the native corporations that do oil and gas and mining, and looking to see what needs of their workforce and coming to chambers, saying, hey, what are the future needs of the workforce so we can start this pipeline so we can grow our own, so they can stay within Alaska. So that's one thing we can do in the planning. The other thing we can do in planning is try to look a little bit further out in terms of our budgeting process. Right now we do a year-to-year budget, but looking at a biennial, doing a 2-year budget might be a way to have state legislators start having that foresight of looking at ways that we can start planning for the future in our capital funding.
Okay, to your right, to Doug Massey.
I believe the role of the legislature is to be responsive to the local governments and communities and the wants and needs that they have, and the communities that they serve. So development is up to you. You decide what's important, you decide what's necessary. So it's my job to take what the local leadership, the local governments, and the local constituents want and move it forward. It's not about us planning policy and what's best for you. It's about you determining what's best, and it's our job to take that forward and seek the funding and move that forward for you.
All right, let's hand it over to Scott Clayton. What do you see as the primary role of state legislatures in planning and development?
Well, we pass and write laws that are either politically motivated or neutral, right? We need to create laws, pass laws that help the state grow and develop. And what I see is that as we see Alaskans moving out because either their industry is being squashed or regulated to death, we're seeing our traditional Alaskans move out of the state. And we're trying to prop up new industries that Alaskans don't support. So we need to continue to support Alaskan industries and create pathways so that they can be successful and drive up population to the state.
Right next door to Michael Shelley.
So I said it a little bit before, it's planning. We tend to plan on 2 to 4 year cycles politically. That's where we are. We look this close to ourselves. And you look at other countries like China, they plan on a 50 or 100 year cycle. One of our problems is we don't plan long term. We're not thinking long term, and we need to start doing that. That's important for us. I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. The fiscal policy matters because we have to have our act together as a state. If we do that, the municipalities, businesses, they have stability, they know what's coming. If we add long-term planning to that, and we have our act together, now we start working with the municipalities like Wasilla, so we know what we're going to do long-term and how we can start funding, how we can start directing where we're going to put those resources, and we start being open for business and telling them, hey folks, come up here, look at all these opportunities we have for you, but we've got to start thinking long-term. We do this, and we need to be doing that. Thanks.
Hand it down to Stephen Wright. What do you see as the primary role of state legislatures in planning and development?
Well, I think what the state legislatures do as far as engaging the people and being able to have a more decentralized function as far as the way the government reacts to things. I think it's important that we develop our resources, we have the roads, the infrastructures as we talked about, all of that is involved in planning and development. We have to look forward to the future. We have to look at all these different activities and bring them all together, business-related ones. We have to incentivize in many ways a lot of the activities that are in the private sector. So we have an opportunity to bring in airlines or cruise lines or whatever that can come in through industry and resource development that will make Alaska strong and provide maximum benefit for the people.
Next up is Shelley Hughes.
Government needs to stay in its lane so that the private sector businesses can do what they do best. And that is not rhetoric. There are very specific things we can do to remove barriers. And so I'm going to just focus on two actually, fiscal house and order, and that's already been discussed because that's going to free up money for infrastructure, essential. Secondly, affordable energy. Affordable energy will allow more development of our natural resources, not just shipping them out raw, but actually producing them into things. When you stir money around in the state, you are not growing the economy. You have to bring outside dollars in. And affordable energy is how we are going to do that. We can build a microreactor plant on the rail belt for about $300–400 million and reduce the cost of energy to 12–13 cents a kilowatt. Then the economy is going to grow.
All right, thank you. So last question, let's start with Scott Clayton. How would you grow business in the Valley?
So I was moose hunting in Healy. I'm not sure if you guys have been to this restaurant. It's called the 49th State, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's huge. It's very surprising that it's in Healy, Alaska, because it's gorgeous. And I was talking to somebody who works there, and I said, "How is this not in MatSu? This is an amazing place." And they said, "We would never go there. We could never get a permit or license for the liquor licenses they provide. They've restricted what they give." And in hearing that, I was pretty shocked, because of all the places to start a business like that, we should have been the first place to go in the state. And so one of the things that we need to look at is, are we making this a business-friendly place? And I don't think we are.
Next door to Doug Massey.
So I would grow business, I would promote growing business in the Valley by making it easy to do business in the Valley. I would push and foster a friendly business climate. As a small business owner, I know myself that processes sometimes stall progress. I would work to streamline those processes so that businesses don't have to spend all their time doing paperwork. A lot of them become frustrated and leave. So I would work on streamlining processes and pushing a very business-friendly MatSu so that businesses will want to come here.
Awesome. I'll send it over to Michael Schauer. How would you grow business in the Valley?
What's our vision? That's my question for you. What's your vision? We need to have a vision. You can't just say we're going to do this and we're going to do policies and whatever we do. We need to think. And the vision's simple. Why would people want to come here? Why would your kids want to stay here? Good education, good roads, good infrastructure, jobs and opportunities. Amazon wants to come up. We don't say they only pay minimum wage jobs. We say absolutely, get yourself up here. We're going to encourage you to come here. We need a vision, folks, and that vision needs to include how we're going to entice and get businesses and people that want to come here and stay here. And that includes our own kids. And we know we're losing people to the lower 48 because there's better opportunities. We need to get our fiscal house in order. I think I said that before. Bottom line, folks, is this needs to be the place where people want to come, they want to stay, they want to live, and they want to raise their family. And if we can give them that vision, they'll want to do it.
Next up is Shelley Hughes.
Fiscal certainty is essential, and you have to have legislators willing to take hard votes that will restrict their power to allow the private sector to grow. We have to hold schools accountable. We worked on something to hold them accountable for grades K through 3rd. Now we've got to do 4 through 12. Otherwise, those kids aren't going to be ready for the workforce, and many of them will leave. And that is not an easy thing. NEA is pretty strong, and they've got different agenda items. But you know what? I care about our kids, I care about our grandchildren, and I'm going to fight for what's right because they need to get back to the basics in our schools so we can have a strong economy.
Next up is David Wilson. How would you grow business in the Valley?
You know, one, like I said before, helping businesses with technical assistance. Sometimes it's a permitting issue that they need a little bit of help on, they don't know where to turn to. We can be that conduit for you. We can help. I mean, the labor commissioner, she lives in the Valley. I think we see a former commissioner of Commerce, you know, here in the room today. I mean, those individuals can provide the technical assistance and reach out to those individuals and reach and see what we can do to help do more of a business public partnerships. We've done that with workforce development in the state. I had a bill to help increase and have a tax-free way to recruit healthcare workers. Businesses give money to the state gives money to the individual, the business gets a tax write-off. It's a win-win-win for everybody in terms of loan repayment. So coming up with creative ways that we can work together like that, so we can create those public business partnerships.
Down to Stephen Wright, please.
Throw it.
I was waiting.
You need to turn that thing up, Tammy.
I tried.
Okay, so my answer to this is Alaska has a lot of seasonal opportunities. So we have to take advantage of each of our seasonal opportunities. We have regulations and restrictions that can be looked at, like the Jones Act. There's my motto for my campaign is maximum benefit for the people. So we are the gateway to the Arctic. We need to have the infrastructure. As Alaska grows, we have to have, like the cargo thing that I mentioned earlier is important for as we expand out into the rural areas. So there's a lot to look at here, but I think it's important that we look at anything that provides for a maximum benefit for our location and for the state of Alaska.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and hand the mic down to Michael Shower. That was the end of our questions, but Michael, you didn't give us a 1-minute introduction, so if you want your 1 minute, this is your time.
Introduction, huh? Ooh, 15 extra seconds. I feel like I'm gonna have forever. For those, I think I know most people in the Valley. We've been, just so since this is the intro time, been a resident for about 30 years, military veteran, 12 years in the private sector as working for FedEx as an international cargo pilot. Actually did a little time in Delta before that. Realized I like boxes are a lot easier to haul around than people are. They don't complain as much. Worked for a small business up here for actually 2 different small businesses for the same amount of time. And then of course I've been serving for about 4.5, 5 years. So Michelle and I have talked about this. She's over there with me, goes to the legislative body with me. And it's a struggle, to be a citizen legislature. I was looking at, we only have a couple that actually do both. They work full time and they have the citizen legislature job. But I think it's important that we keep that tie to the local community and what's going on in the economic times. And so after a lot of prayer and debate and talking to each other, see, I told you 15 seconds, feels like I got forever now. We feel that we were so close to solving some of these issues, including the spending cap and the comprehensive fiscal plan, some election reform, that we want to go back and try to finish it. And I think bringing that experience to the table is one of the reasons that we're going to run and hopefully go back. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys all for coming out. I appreciate you guys taking your time to come speak to us. Let's go and give them a big round of applause, please. We got chamber announcements?
We do.
We do.
We ran out of time last time.
We have time
All right.
for this time.
We do. So we are preparing for our Support Local November campaign. For those of you who were around last year, it's a big month-long celebration. You essentially just go visit, I think we have 50 this year, 50 local businesses that are participating. You purchase things or you donate if it's a nonprofit or you do something with that business to support them. You get entered into, we have all kinds of drawings this year. For wins, it's going to be 100% virtual this year, so you don't have to keep track of that paper and get stickers. You just scan that QR code at the location with your phone. It's going to be super easy. We're going to have a lot of fun. So look for that announcement coming towards the end of the month on how to get participating in that and join and help us support all these amazing local businesses. So we do have openings on our nominating and governance committee. We're running into board election season again. Shocker, it's election season everywhere. So if you're interested in serving on that committee, get me your information. I'll connect you with the chair. You can also connect with our vice president, Brian Headings, over there. I think we're going to rope him in on that one committee as well. And then in chamber meetings this week, our board of directors does meet tomorrow. If you want information on that meeting, if you want to be a person that should be heard, you can let myself or our secretary, Veronica Pillans, there she is, know, and we can get you on the agenda. All I have for chamber announcements, but we have a bunch of door prizes to give away. If you brought a door prize to give away,
and really quick before we do the door prizes, I want to let you guys know, join us November 1st for updates from the MatSu Regional Medical Center CEO, Dave Wallace, and we will also have our very own Kylie Lucas doing our 5-minute spotlight. Only 5 minutes, Kylie. Yeah, we might have to have tiny time here.
Joseph said something about bringing rotten tomatoes.
All right, I think we got money to give away. How much do we got to give away today?
$422.
$422, and you still have to get past
You do have to get past the wheel of MTA. I've been reminded.
I'm feeling lucky today, though.
Clarify that.
It's a wheel of tears.
I'm trying to spin this.
Alrighty, my fellow Alaskans, hopefully I've muted them out in the background well enough that you can hear me loud and clear. Thank you all for being here today. Please make sure to like and share this video. And if you have a Rumble account, please go to rumble.com, click that support button, and click the follow button there, and make sure you also hit the subscribe to get notified when we go live, because that is our future intent. We were just 9 away from being able to create a channel there, and we're hoping to achieve that by the end of today, and your support can make that happen. Go to rumble.com, put into the search bar Politadick, and send us right on over, and let's get that 20 people as needed to create our own channel. And if you're just joining us, please like and share. This was the MatSu Valley Senate Candidate Forum. All the candidates that were available to come here and speak to us today about the issues that the Wasilla Chamber of Commerce finds most important to the Wasilla community. Please go to our website, politadick.com, and click that support button. Your proceeds made today's broadcast available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook at both Politadick and Politadick Unfiltered, and you can find us at Politadick everywhere, including Rumble. Like I said, we were just 9 away from having our own channel. I will then move all of my YouTube videos over to Rumble so that you'll be able to watch them in both places. And when they say that I can't do something like the medical symposium or the election integrity forum that was held this last year, and they censor it on all the media channels, Rumble will give me another outlet to be able to do that. Again, thank you all for being here today. It has been greatly appreciated. Again, do not. That's how we're going to make sure things like this get done. We really do appreciate all the support that we get from all of you. You made this all possible. Again, thank you for being here today. It is greatly appreciated. And you guys all have a great afternoon. I will see you at the Con with Senator Shelley Hughes and Senator Mike Shower beginning at 7 o'clock at the Loussac Library. Hope you can make it. If not, I will be live streaming it to all of you.
And you do have to call it a schedule. And the number is last 4, 1, 2.